Hi guys, I am the Crazy Cat Writer. I'm back with another reading vlog. Okay, so let's get started. So firstly, the books that I've read since my last vlog. Pretty Things by Janelle Brown. It is an amazing book. Slow-paced, light thriller. In spite of the slow build-up, the book was actually pretty good and it was pretty rewarding as well. I like the ending. It's just very rare to see good endings in thrillers anymore, so it was a book with a good ending. Next book that I read was Daily Rituals: How Artists Work by Mason Curry. It has very short tidbits about what famous artists did before creating their art. So it's like the ritual kind of thing. I have done many articles on writing rituals, and when I found this book I was really excited because I really wanted to know about what famous artists did for creating their art, and this book was right up my alley and I would suggest it to all the writers out there. Moving on, the next book that I finished was The Night Boat by Robert McCammon. Now, Robert McCammon is one of my all-time favorite authors, but somehow I didn't like this book. Fiction books should not load up the readers with excessive knowledge about that they might not want to learn about. So yeah, Night Boat was kind of a bummer and I really wanted to love it because Robert McCammon is like my all-time favorite authors. The story was a class zombies on a boat. That trope is actually, I think, it's come from him. So my rating for this book was obviously on the lower side, but I could not rate it below 3 stars because Robert McCammon. Anyway, moving on, the next book that I read was Mr. Mercedes, the first book in the Bill Hodges trilogy by other than Stephen King. It was so refreshing to read a book that was on the lighter side by King. Book was pretty good. The story was amazing. Bill Hodges actually felt like a real character, real detective, not the shiny ones, but the rusty ones. So I really liked it. I listened to the audiobook, so it was good. It was narrated by Will Patton. Will Patton is one of the narrators of If It Beats, and he was amazing. The next book I read, The War of Art: Break Through the Blocks and Win Your Inner Creative Battles by Steven Pressfield. This book, guys, was the reason why I actually took a social media detox. This book spoke to me on so many levels. I mean, it was completely in sync with the ideology that I have related to writing, and I connected with this book on each and every level, I must say. And I loved this book, and I have actually saved the audiobook. I have both the audiobook and the ebook, so I have saved the audiobook on my phone so that whenever I don't feel like writing or whenever I feel unmotivated, I'm just gonna listen to this book because this book somehow does it for me. This book is amazing. If you're a writer, you have to read this book. If you're an artist, you have to read this book because it generally talks about resistance. Moving on, I read The Infamous Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. And I would tell you something, it was just so disgusting. Oh my god, there might be a lot of fans of this book. There are a lot of fans of this book. I found Vladimir Nabokov's writing to be okay. I have no idea why people, but like any other classic, it's just that either you like it or you hate it, and I ended up hating it. I found it absolutely disgusting. It is not because it was on pedophilia, but I have read books similar to this one, and that in a far better way, where at least the protagonist who was a pedophile hated himself, and here it was kind of glorified, and overall I just found it disgusting and I did not read it. I did not complete it. The moment the author started calling little girls nymph, that was kind of enough for me. So I just kind of shut it off. I did not complete it, so it's 1 star for me. DNF. Anyway, moving on, the next book that I completed was The Ghost Pirates by William Hope Hodgson. Okay, this book, I had been listening to this book on LibriVox from last, I guess, 1.5 months. I just couldn't find the time to listen to this book, but this was quite similar. Both by Robert McCammon, and I actually preferred this one. Had a bit direct approach to the whole ghost story thing, So I actually liked it, but I still rated it 3 stars because it wasn't an amazing read, and it being a classic, it was a bit slow for my taste. The next book that I read was Finders Keepers, Bill Hodges trilogy book 2. Finders Keepers was actually not as good as I had expected. After reading the first book, Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers actually felt like, for most part, for more than half of the book, the main characters were actually absent in the... Okay, I'm just gonna spoil it if I'm gonna say this, but okay, let me just put it this way. This book is just a kind of a necessity if you're going for the entire trilogy. Otherwise, you can actually skip this one and just directly move on to the third book. The first and the third book are actually pretty related, closely related, so you won't be missing a lot if you are gonna skip the second part. But I actually liked it. It was okay, not great, but okay. Okay, the next book that I finished was Shadow and Bone, the Shadow and Bone trilogy 1 by Leigh Bardugo. Oh my god, Leigh Bardugo is like the queen of dark fantasy, and this book didn't even come close to the awesomeness that Six of Crows was. Six of Crows was like the best dark fiction novel, dark fantasy novel I might have ever read, I guess. But after A Song of Ice and Fire and Lolita series. But yes, Leigh Bardugo is like the contemporary Tolkien for dark fiction, for dark fantasy, you know, at least for me. But Shadow and Bone felt like her first book. Every author's first book is like a bit rusty around the edges. So yes, it wasn't a great read, it was an okay read, and I've rated it 3 stars only. Presently I'm reading the second part, and I'm not really liking the entire thing, the entire story overall, though I'm just reading it because these 3 books, the first 3 books in the Grishaverse, are actually the prequels to Six of Crows. Therefore I'm reading it because I have Crooked Kingdom and I want to read Crooked Kingdom only after completing the first 3 books. So let's see. The next book that I read was A Mother's Lie by Sarah Zettel. I liked this book, but then the book kind of started going helter-skelter and I did not like it. Overall, I just felt that it just was too long for the story that it had to tell, and it wasn't up my alley. I have no idea why I did not like it, because it had all the things that I might have liked, but somehow the book put me off. I guess it had to do because of a lot of foreshadowing. So these were the books that I read. The books that I'm reading right now are of literature. You can see photos of it on my Instagram feed. It is a beautiful book about literature. That's all I can say about it. The second book that I'm reading right now is Jaya, an illustrated retelling of the Mahabharata by Devdutta Pattnaik. And it is actually a pretty compact retelling of Mahabharata, which I was pretty grateful for because I really wanted a lighter version of Mahabharata, and it is also illustrated by the author himself, so it's pretty amazing. Also, I'm reading The Uncanny by Sigmund Freud. It's kind of an essay by Sigmund Freud, the famous psychologist. I've just recently started reading it. I'm just not getting the time to accommodate in my normal readings. I'm also reading Storm and Siege, the second part in the Grishaverse series by Leigh Bardugo, and I'm not liking it, as I said earlier. Okay, the next book that I'm reading is End of Watch. I'm listening to it actually. End of Watch by Stephen King. It is the third and the last book in the Bill Hodges series, and it is gonna be a bomb, I'm pretty sure, because it's already started on the right foot, and I'm really interested in seeing how the story ends. I do know the main thing that happens in the end, and I'm not gonna say it here because I've read The Outsider, so I actually know where things end, but I'm still looking forward to it. So these are the books that I'm reading right now. So that was all. See you all in my next vlog. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you all next time. Bye.